Hey y'all, today we're going to show you how to break down, service, and reassemble a Penn 114H2. This is the later model. There are some differences between this one and the previous model, so that's why we're going to do it. We're going to start with taking off the handle, removing that screw there off that cap. Just pull that straight up. Now we have to undo that nut. You got to go counterclockwise to remove it. There's going to be a washer under here. There it is right there. I'm going to kind of lay these things out so you see how they sit. Then you have the star drag that sits there. Then you have a tension spring that's there and a sleeve. That's how it lays out. Now all I'm going to do is go ahead and loosen these 4 screws on the bridge, remove these 5 screws on the outside, and come back to you when I pull this up. I'm going to leave the eccentric on for now. The screws on the outside are all the same size, so no need to worry about those. So since some of you will come for just the bridge or the main gear section of it, I'm going to do the side first. There are the screws for the outside beauty rings, and now we're going to do the inside. I'm going to cup my hand under it just so if something is in there that can shoot out, it doesn't go shooting somewhere that I can't find it. As you see, I'm leaving that eccentric lever on there for now. We'll take that off in a second. And to remove this bridge, you need to put the lever in the engaged position, which is what I did there. It just kind of drops out. If it doesn't, you can kind of wiggle it out. There we have the spring for the dog, and the dog right there. So let's go ahead and take the rest of the stuff off. I'm just going to pull up on this lug just to get that up. Pull that out. Kind of lay these things out so you see them. This one's a little simpler to come off, that jack right there, than most of them, which is, I think, a good thing. And let's go ahead and remove the eccentric on this now. I'm just going to do this nut right here, or this screw, excuse me. I don't want to keep my hand over it, but it doesn't really go, it doesn't do anything to you. It doesn't like go flying around. Kind of pop that up, out it comes, and that's kind of how it looks. You can see it's kind of a messy reel, but we'll get it cleaned up. We're going to go ahead and pull this bearing out of there. I'm going to test that in a sec too. It's okay. Felt a little strange on when I was cranking the reel, so that's why. Alright, so the last part here would be the gear. Just pull that straight up, kind of like so. You can remove this with a punch. Make sure the diameter is correct when you use it. There's a little pin inside there that you can pop out, and this sleeve will come up. We're not going to do that, but we are going to show you the stack for the drag. And these will need to be replaced, I think. So get to see me do that. I'm just laying it out how it looks so you guys can see it. Where's my bend? So that's essentially how the stack looks. This top washer is a beveled or beveled washer. The rest are all the same thickness. There's no difference between these 2 keyed washers here. All you have to worry about is this bevel washer being on top and curved facing down. One final note, we have a washer, a hard washer under here. Probably end up replacing that because there's a little bit of wear. I thought there was. There is. I'm going to place that washer there as well. Oh, one thing to note. what I'm going to be using to clean this stuff up is pretty straightforward. I use some Corrosion X just to break down this grease if it's too dried or stuck on there. If not, I'm just going to use a lot of Q-tips, paper towel, and that's about it probably on this. And when it comes to the beater rings on the outside, if there's any debris or just pitting, not pitting, but if there's some marks or whatever I want to remove, I'm going to be using a 4/0 steel wool to kind of get that those markings off of there as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just add some grease to these screws. Now it is important to note that the screws on the right side or the handle side are longer than the screws. I'm not even sure if they are. I think they are longer than the screws on the left side or the non-handle side, and that's just because the handle side is thicker. The graphite is thicker than on the left side, or vice versa. I'm going to grease the entire threads on this. Now I will say, on the other day someone mentioned a different product to use for this stuff, and I did order it, but it hasn't come in yet, so we'll check it out when it does. And for these bridge screws, we're just going to do the tip of all of them. And that's it. We're going to be greasing a bunch of stuff here, but next I'm going to jump to the bridge and the drag washers. For this, I'm going to use Cal's Universal Drag Grease. And first thing I'm going to do is grease this portion of it. It's going to be a light amount that I'm just going to kind of wipe it with my hands or my fingers, kind of like that. Just around there like that. And for the main gear, I'm going to kind of just lather on some grease on this, and then we'll just kind of work it in. Just kind of like that. To the bottom as well. And I'm going to do the top part, just because. Now we can stick our hard fiber washer on there, just like so. Drop our main gear on. And I will start with the drag washers. I'm going to do this one at a time, just kind of so you can kind of see where things go. And we're just putting a light amount on this. We're not putting a whole bunch, but we don't want to coat the entire surface. First goes a HT100. Then we have one keyed metal washer. Next fiber washer, and now you have an eared metal washer. Those go in between those two slots on the main gear. HT100 keyed metal washer. HT100. Then your eared metal washer. Then you have your final HD 100 washer here. And your final keyed washer that you can put on this beveled washer here. That curved part, if you can see that or not. I'm not even inside of you. If you can see that curved part inside there, that's going to be facing down like so. I'm going to get that out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and grease these beauty rings. Just a light amount is fine. And it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be in there. If you want to know what kind of grease I'm using here, it's the Penn blue grease. It's called Penn Precision Real Grease or something like that. Now we'll go ahead and grease everything else. I did leave the handle so you guys can see what I do in terms of like cleaning stuff, or that's for an example of cleaning stuff. And yeah, that's it. Cleaning stuff. Pinion. I typically like to put a lot of grease on the pinion. I don't know why. I know it's a reason. I just can't remember why. Probably some traumatic experience in life. Who knows? But I do grease everything on it. Just a light amount on the jack and the yoke. The yoke will probably get a little bit more, but these things just kind of wipe off as they get used. So the jack, you do want to stick some inside these little channels right here, and right here. And the same thing for inside here. But like I said, as it gets used, it just kind of gets pushed out of the way anyhow. Now for the bearing, I'm going to add some Real X oil. I'm going to show you that in a sec. Real X. And I'm going to spin this, just kind of work that in. That should suffice. And I'm going to add a light amount of grease on the top and bottom side of the dog. Kind of wipe that in. But I'm not putting any in the tip. Same thing for the spring that is that's going to go on there. Alright, so now we're going to put this back together. The first thing I'm going to do is put this one of these beauty rings on. It's going to be the one with the curved end at the bottom. I'm going to lay it on there right now. And you can do this without, you can do this with the eccentric on there, but it's just a little more difficult on this reel to get it done. So we're going to put that on there. I take that back. We're going to take it off for a second because we want to put this in first. Let's go ahead and grease this eccentric up. Add some grease inside that hole right there where the screw is going to go. Kind of like that. Add a little bit of grease to the end of that. Just like so. Stick that in. And this is pretty easy to go in, so it's not that big of a deal. Kind of like that. Now I'm going to rotate this until I can kind of use my screwdriver to pull that down inside there like that. Push it over a little bit, push down, and now I'm going to take my eccentric lever, lay it on the incorrect side, looking like that, over the keyed portion of that eccentric, then rotate it until I can balance it in the middle, somewhere around there. Now I'm going to stick this on, just like so, and put this back over it and screw it in. And if it slips out on the way in, if that eccentric lever slips off, don't worry about it. Just readjust it as you get closer to the bottom. I do not want it there though. I kind of want it in the middle. Stay there for a sec so we're lined up properly. When it gets to the bottom or close to it, it can certainly go back over to the right or to the engaged position. Yeah. Make sure you snug it down. And verify that it works. You can stick some grease on this spring right here if you wanted to. Stick a little bit around that post right there. And now we're going to take our springs, stick them in. Where'd it go? It does not want to go in. Take our bearing, drop that in place. Make sure it goes inside the recess. And now we're going to take our yoke, put our pinion gear inside, stick it just like that. Put it where that curved portion of the yoke is facing up. Have it over those two springs right there. Push down all the way. Keep the lever in the engaged position. Lay it over it kind of like that. And just kind of play with it. So angle it a little bit. This is actually pretty easy to go in. Now you can put it back to keep it in place, but remember when you go to put this main gear back in, you're going to have to move that eccentric lever back up to the engaged position or to the retrieve position to get that to fit inside, the main gear to fit inside. So now I'm going to take this, the pieces that I'm going to need for this portion here, and now I'm going to put this, hold on to this part, put that back in the engaged position, press my finger over this so it doesn't slip out of place, turn it sideways, just like that, and just look just like that, and then just kind of push on it and hold it there, just like that. Take our screw. We have one of the fully threaded screws inside here. We're going to take our dog. Dog's going to be sitting looking just like that, where the bottom end of the sloped end, the bottom sloped end, if that makes any sense, will be facing inside just like that. And you can always test it out by sticking it inside here against the ratchet just to make sure. Just the bottom pointy end will be facing into the teeth of the ratchet. Stick that in. Push that all the way through for now. Now we're going to take our dog, and you see this little post right here. It's going to be wrapped around this. So I'll show you what it looks like after I do it. It'll look just like that. Now I see that post right there. There's this post here and there's the same one on the other side. We're going to be working this over to get that hole and this hole over those posts. I'm going to just turn it gently. I'm going to push down slightly on this screw right there and keep rotating and just working the bridge until we can fit it over those two posts that I was telling you about, which we just did. I'm going to secure this one screw for now. test the dog to make sure it works, and it does. And then we're just going to continue. The not fully threaded screw will be going at top. Then we're going to work that in. Now we're going to take a screwdriver and kind of start in a like an X sort of pattern. Tighten that one down, then this one. And we're going to snug, but we're not over tightening these things. Then go over one more time just to make sure. Because what happens is, as you tighten each one down, it gives a little more wiggle room for the other one. Alright, that's how it looks. Kind of messy. Need to clean it up, but just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, so now I'll give you a small sample of what I do to clean these reels up. Usually just the chrome part. I'm using my paper towel to get inside that hole right there, but I'm also going to use a Q-tip to kind of just get inside there. Now, this might be difficult for you to see this part, but there's some dulling on this, or some, looks like some bait or whatever. I'm just going to take my 4-0 steel wool, just kind of wipe that over it. And that does a good job of removing it without scratching the chrome or the metal on there. Same thing for the top side, and you can even do it around here, but this doesn't need it, so we're not going to do it. And it'll be the same thing for this stuff. And that's it. So now to handle our business with the handle knob, we're going to take that pointy end of the Real X oil, stick that inside there, just squirt, and then just work it kind of like that. You can do it like that if you want, like that. A little bit right here. Okay, now to put this stuff back together, we're going to add some grease to the threads all around here. There's 2 sets of threads, just take note of that. Don't block that hole on the top, because we're going to take our Real X oil, stick it inside there, and just put a little bit inside. That'll work itself in when we just turn the reel. Take our sleeve, drop it on just like so. Take our tension washer, make sure the curved or bottom end is facing down, so it's like that, not like this. Then we take our star drag and screw that on there. Make sure you don't cross thread this. It's not that easy to do, but you can, so just be careful. And just work it down. If you get to the point where it starts to slip while you screw this star drag down, you can always take the handle, stick it over the groove that's going to sit just like that, and then work the rest down. I don't need to do that because it didn't do that for me, but just in case it does for you. Alright, so now I put that other washer on top of here, and I'm going to stick this over it just like so. And I think we are good there. Yeah, just make sure it fits over the slot that's on that shaft. Take our nut, screw that on, and when you get to the bottom, you're going to want that one of the points of the nut facing that hole, or in that general direction. Where is my... So I'm going to tighten it until... Okay, so I can't go that far. So I'm going to back it up to where that one of those points is kind of around there. That looks pretty good. Grease up the nut. And we can cover that up. And that's good. then just secure it. Alright, so that's essentially it for this right side of the reel. If you want to see the rest of it, continue watching. I'll come right back to you and show you the spool and the left side. Alright, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so the spool is pretty straightforward. Just going to clean that up a little bit. Then we're going to add some grease to certain points on it. Somewhere around here where it's going to go inside the bearing on the left side. And some in here, just like on the shoulder and everything else, where it's going to go in the bearing on the right side. And that's it. Now note, for these screws, I'm going to set these aside inside that ring, just so I know they all go for the right side, or for one side, but will be the longer side, and set that aside for now because we're not putting the reel back together yet. And now I'm going to get the, where'd it go? Now I'm going to get the left side and we're going to take this apart. First thing I'm going to do is these, the rod clamp setup. Take those nuts off. Now we can loosen this up just to show you what it looks like. That's about it. Nothing really. We're going to straighten these out if we can because they look a little bent. A light loosen is all you need. Then you can just push it. Did I lie to you? Did I lie to you? No, I didn't lie to you, but this one doesn't want to come out. That's all. Just gonna push it out. There's a little slot that it sits in, and it comes out like that. All right, so now let's do this side. We're gonna undo these screws here. That might look rough to you, but it's not. I'm just being very gentle with this this wrench, but it gives a little extra support so I can pull this screw out. And when I get this apart, the beater rings will be the same kind of process that I did for the right side, where I cleaned them up and then add the grease inside of it. Basically, I'm not going to show you that part. What I am going to show you is the breakdown of the click tongue and what the bearing looks like. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I think the screws are the same size, so I apologize for that. Doesn't matter what happens if you mix them up or not. They're going to be the same size on both sides. Alright, so let's show you the click part first, and then we can you can cut out of this video if you want to, or watch me until the end to put everything back together. Alright, just took out the bearing there. The click tongue has a little E-clip on top that we need to remove. First thing I'm going to take off would be the click spring itself by undoing these two screws here. Pop that out like that. Now we can take our small flathead screwdriver, stick it in between the gaps on the click spring, I'm sorry, on the click tongue, and twist. There's an E-clip on top there that we're twisting off. Right there. Can pull that up. Just like so. Sometimes there might be a washer under here, so just take note. Even if the schematic doesn't show it, there might be one. And that's how it looks. I think we're going to have to replace this one because it looks kind of worn. So let's get that replaced. Alright, so I'm going to clean this up like I did before. Same sort of deal. Come back to you, show you how to put all this stuff back together. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I've cleaned and greased the beater rings and the screws here. Got the replacement clicker here. So what I would do on this side as well is add a little bit of grease to those holes. Nothing much. A little bit of grease to the threads here. Stick some oil inside this bearing and also grease the threads. And now to put this clicker back in, we're going to take our click tongue first and put that in first. I'm going to add a little bit of grease around here. Just drop that inside from the back side, facing up like that. Take our clicker or our click tongue and stick that on there. Now we just take our heat clip and squeeze that on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use my trusty old flathead screwdriver. I just angle that over the fat side or thick side of the click tongue. I'm just going to pop it on like that. And now we're in. Some people like using pliers. I prefer the screwdriver, but sometimes the pliers works better. Now we can go ahead and grease this click tongue, the click spring. Just like so. I'm going to kind of lay that over there. We're going to open this up over the thin side of the click tongue. This is not as difficult as I'm making it look right now, so I apologize. Sometimes that happens. Lay that over it where you can put the 2 screws in. Then the screw it. And we can go ahead and snug these down. And let's add a little bit of grease just to the click tongue area, especially where it's going to slide between the click spring. And that's it for that. Now we can screw this back in. Don't go too far in, just slightly recessed would be good, because you still need to put it against the spool, and sometimes if it's too tight, it may give you the feel that something's wrong, but not really wrong. Alright, so now we're going to put this back together. The way this is going to sit is, this bar goes back in. Just slide it in like that. But the way it's going to sit is, this is going to be facing forward. Alright, let's go ahead and put this beauty ring on. Just line up, make sure all the holes are visible. Take our inside beauty ring, do the same thing. There's one clue for this one. There's a slot at the top. That slot at the top will be where the lug goes. So you can definitely line it up using that. I'm going to stick that in now, because sometimes it's not easy to get it inside. And I'm going to secure it with 1 screw. Doesn't need to secure yet or tightened yet, but you want to get it pretty close so these beauty rings don't kind of flop around or anything. So now I'm going to take this, turn it upside down just like that, and start screwing these in. Let's turn this side so I can see what I'm doing. And you can snug these ones that are going into the graphite down right away. And the one with the post, you're going to wait until you get the right side on before you tighten them down, because they'll start spinning if you try to do it on this side without some sort of support. Okay, now we're going to stick our spool in. Make sure that clicker's in the up or out position so it doesn't block the spool from going in. And now we're going to take our right side, stick on our beauty ring. Make sure we get our lug inside there. And that's the one I'm going to secure first, just like I did on the other side. And you got to do a little bit of a balancing act here. There's nothing terrible. Make sure it's over that post. And then secure it. Now you can turn it upside down or sideways and get the others in. When you get to the post part, you can certainly take 2 screwdrivers. I'll just take one on this side, stick it in there, and then just turn from this side. And it'll be the same thing for this one right here. Then you come around to the side and make sure that this side is secure. You don't need to do the same thing I did for this side because this one's already secured. In general, sometimes it may slip. If it does, then you use both screwdrivers. Nice. Alright, so that's it for that. Now we're going to put the lugs back in. And I'm just going to lift it up slightly and then pop it inside there. We're going to fix this in a sec. We're going to fix the bend on these. So I stick them inside the groove. Make sure they're all the way in that slot, that squared off slot in the back there. Then snug them down. Don't over tighten these things, but snug them down. Same for this one. Get in there. And now since we saw that these are bent, right, they can probably still fit inside there, but we're going to straighten these up by using this adjustable wrench and gently pressing it, pushing, pulling, whatever you need to do to straighten those up, and that looks good to me. Alright, so that's it. Let's check it out, make sure it works. Yeah, that feels good. I can't hold that. Well, let's do the clicker while we're here. Clicker sounds good. Free spool. Free spool works nicely. Nice. That's pretty much it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit that thumbs up button. Also, if you appreciate this content, consider subscribing to the channel. And I will see you guys next time.